I think the girls along the way had a really hard time because they started thinking it was real.
Selling Sunset star Christine Quinn is holding nothing back as she reveals all of the tea on the Call Her Daddy podcast. Hey guys, and welcome back to another shared news. We've got to get into the biggest revelations from Christine's tell-all on the Call Her Daddy podcast. But before we do that, make sure you guys give this video a thumbs up and you're subscribed to our channel so you're always up to date with all the things reality TV. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Reality, joined by Blakely Mchugh. Blakely, I know you listened to the podcast. How juicy was it?
So juicy. You described it perfectly. It was totally a tell-all. She is giving us all the behind the scenes of Selling Sunset. I feel like she was sharing more than anybody in reality TV has ever shared as to what goes on behind the scenes in filming, in production, all of it. I mean, I know we shouldn't be surprised because it's like, what do you expect from reality TV? But I was kind of shocked.
It is a male-dominated industry in the production field to which they manipulate women.
Yeah, I think this is definitely what we would expect because we know reality TV so well, but I don't think most listeners or viewers, really know the in-depth detail of what goes on behind the scenes and how manipulative producers are. I mean, I was fascinated listening to Christine talk about like the storyboard of like the storylines they have pre-planned before filming starts, and like the fact that this deleted scene or unedited scene was sent to a journalist who sent it to Christine. I mean, we're going to get into the fact that she may or may not be getting sued from this. I mean, she just really told all. And I mean, I agree with what you said. Like, it was just so candid. Do you like think that that was too bold of her? Like, obviously, like people are going to resonate with her because she's being honest. But do you think that her future on the show could be impacted by her spilling this much tea?
I think that there's nothing too bold for Christine Quinn. First off, she is always giving us more. Like, you think that she's already given everything, and then somehow she finds a way to just give you more and give you more. But I did have that question. I'm curious how this impact or plays out for her in future seasons or future shows, because she was talking about wanting to have a show just all about, herself and her life pretty much. Because my thought is, what producers or services want to bring on somebody who's going to basically like spill all the secrets,
Especially because the show is coming back and she said that she's not going anywhere. It's like, this was an interview you do, or the tell-all when you're done with the show, when you're leaving and you're ready to say it all. So I'm interested to see what her future is with the show, but let's start breaking down some of the tea because she has dropped some major bombs on her villain edit from Selling Sunset. Now, she did open up to Alex about her upbringing and what impact she wants to make on the world with her new book, How to Be a Boss Bitch.
I have an 8th grade education. I was pulled from school. When I was 17 years old, I packed up and left. There is no shame in the sugar daddy game.
Christine recalls growing up in a conservative upbringing in Texas with the limitations she had fully to express herself as a child. Christine is a self-made woman who hustled and fought her way to the top. She even talked about having a sugar daddy for a brief moment while setting her boundaries and intentions to become the boss bitch woman she is today. So before we even get into the tea, I want to know, what did you think of Christine's upbringing and her vulnerability? And do you think she's making a positive impact with her platform?
I would have never guessed that Christine was brought up the way that she was because of who she is, but it does also make sense because a lot of people are brought up in really conservative homes where they are not allowed to really have freedom or do much, oftentimes like rebel in their adult life. I think it's really impressive and incredible that she has made such a career for herself with the education that she has. And I imagine that you really have to, in that sort of aspect, fake it till you make it. And so I think that she really is probably inspirational to a lot of people to see, okay, you can be in one place and then you can end up here. It doesn't matter where you came from, although maybe it's a little bit more difficult, you can still make it to that degree. So I definitely think that she is inspirational to a lot of people. And I do love her attitude in the sense of like, I kind of feel like she's acting like a man in a man's world, like so many times women take a step down, or they're easier to work with or not demanding as much. The list can go on because we're women and that's how we feel like we are trained to behave or how we're supposed to act. And here Christine is coming and kind of shattering all of that and is like, no, like I'm going to get what I want and what I deserve. No questions asked. And you can do it too. All of which I think is really incredible. The only component that I think that we're missing from her, and maybe again, I feel like my eyes have opened and maybe softened a little bit more to Christine because of this interview. I really was not a Christine fan this whole time, but I have softened a little bit from the interview. I know we're disagreeing on that. But I would love to see her do all of that, but also like spread kindness. And I say that knowing that everything on the show, and that's all I know her by, is totally manipulated. And she may be that person in real life, but I would love to see that through a television screen as well.
Yeah, and we have to kind of get into her villain edit and everything on the show
Yes.
because yes, I am a Christine fan, but I'm still going to hold her accountable for her behavior on the show. And this interview did provide a lot of context on why she comes across the way she comes across. Now, she shared that the producers and the ladies knew she was going to be the villain since casting started. Christine was actually the one who encouraged Jason and the girls to go forward with the show when they were approached to film a reality show. She says that they knew they needed a villain. She's always loved reality TV, and the girls knew that the show needed a villain, so they encouraged her to have fun with it. Christine was very intentional in making herself known and memorable so that she can capitalize off of the platform of Netflix and turn her brand into an empire. She became very good at detaching herself from when the cameras were on and off because she knew the assignment of making a good reality TV show, and clearly she knows what she's doing because she is the most talked about and the highest paid on the show. This is kind of Christine saying that this villain persona you see on reality TV isn't necessarily her. There's lots of hours of footage being filmed and, they only edit it down to make Christine look like this villain and this caricature of a villain, but she is vulnerable and she does have, friendly relationships with some of the ladies. She's close with Chelsea. She's close with Vanessa. It's not all what you see on Selling Sunset. Do you think that she takes this villain persona too far? Like, where does the line draw? Because what we see on the show is not what we're seeing in this podcast.
Yeah, you're totally right. I think she does take it a little far. It's one thing to be the persona on our TV screens, right? But then I see her say, I feel like unkind things and nasty things in the press and outside of the show. And, maybe that's just her continuing with this character that she is on Selling Sunset and which she has really embodied and has no remorse or regret for it, which is fine because in her, she's, she is being a character on a show, which if you were casted in a movie and you were the villain, you wouldn't be apologizing for that either in your everyday life, right? So I feel like that's really like sort of the stance that she has taken on who she is in this show. It's not who Christine Quinn is, it's who she is on Selling Sunset. But then the lines get blurred when that persona, I feel like, starts to go into the press and starts to go into these, comments that she makes. And you can do so much editing, but you can't change. Well, maybe you can, because she said at one point something different was coming out of her mouth than what she actually said. But as a viewer, it just feels like you can't totally change everything that you're saying. And some of the things that she says, I feel like are messed up.
Yeah, she definitely throws some darts and some fires, but I mean, she did kind of explain that there is so much editing that goes into it and that they even kind of can twist certain scenes to make it seem like she's saying something else and then it's out of context. So, I mean, the biggest takeaway I got from this part is that she is so detached. So when she is on, the show and there's filming, there's cameras, she's very much like, all right, I'm here to play my role. Once the cameras are down, she's like, what's good, everybody? How are you? So I feel like that's where the lines are blurred, and I don't know if she needs to kind of like tell the girls that behind the scenes, like Heather, Mary, like it's just a show, because it seems like it's gotten lost in translation over the years and she can't really seem 100%. To keep the friendships. So even though she's like the villain on the show, like there must be something going on in real life that's like making none of these people want to be friends with her. So I mean, what do you think of the co-stars thought of her interview?
Yeah, I feel like they never believe anything that comes out of Christine's mouth, but it's interesting to me because I understand that Christine is the villain. So obviously she is going to get a different edit than everybody else. So maybe her co-stars are not experiencing what Christine is experiencing because they're not the ones who are having to look bad, you know? And maybe
Mhm.
they are, but maybe to a degree, not as much as Christine is. And I think that that's, as a viewer, where it's gotten confusing is because we have two stories that just 100% do not line up. And I could see her co-stars coming out and saying, well, that hasn't happened to me. This, X, Y, and Z, everything that she's listed, I haven't experienced. And so then by them saying that, it now makes it seem like, what Christine believes to be her truth or is the truth for Christine is actually not. So I I I don't know.
And this is why we
I
needed her
just
at the reunion. This is why we
I
needed
exactly.
her to hash things out with the girls face to face. They've never had a reunion before. And I wish that Alex
Mhm.
asked about the reunion tea and if she really had COVID and more about that. I mean, Christine said she tested positive. A couple days later, she tested negative. But it's like, we need another reunion because
Mhm.
the only way we're going to hash this out and get the truth is if we get the women sitting, together with a mediator. But I want to
Yes.
talk about this clip because Alex did see Christine share the unedited clip of Heather and her at lunch, where it was
Mhm.
very much it was misedited on the show. I mean, can you kind of explain
Correct.
what happened here?
So my understanding is, and I feel like things actually after the interview, I feel like Alex might have been confused, and I'm seeing some other people who were confused, but this is my understanding because I actually went back to the way that that episode aired on the season. The way that the
Okay.
episode aired on the season between Heather and Christine was the comment about Jason saying, or I'm sorry, not Jason saying, Christine said that
Chriselle.
Jason used to have taste in men, no longer does because he's dating Chriselle. And then Christine laughs and says, "Oh, haha, that's funny. I did say that." But there was another edit that my understanding is could have been used that took the haha, that's funny, but instead was responding to Heather apparently saying that Chriselle was cheating on Justin Hartley with Jason. Now, when I watched the interview with Alex Cooper, the way that she responded made it seem like she was confused to me. She thought that that was the way that it aired was the cheating allegation, but not the way that it actually did. And I don't know if I'm alone in feeling that way. But I did think that it really showed viewers and opened our eyes to wow, they really can dub it audio from any season, from any
Mhm.
scene, from any filming. They have, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours, if not tens of thousands of hours of audio that they can use. And if you're not watching the person's mouth, if you're seeing the back of them, who knows if what they're really saying is what we're
True.
hearing. And I thought that that was extremely eye-opening.
Yeah, because Christine had this clip that a reporter sent to her because, she gets
Hmm.
they got like screeners of the episodes before they came
Yeah.
out. And it's just interesting to see. I mean, Christine is just so savage. The way she just pulled up that clip, she's like, I have a clip. Here it is. I was like, Christine, bring those receipts. But the thing is, she should have brought those receipts to the reunion. We see it on
Yes.
Housewives where they bring the text receipts and all these other things. I mean, this was Christine's chance to kind of bring it to
Yes.
the reunion. But it also makes me think that Christine is so intentional. The word she uses is because she knew she had a book coming out. She knew she was going on a press tour coming
Hmm.
out. She knew that she had these interviews lined up where she was going to be able to share her side of the story without anyone interrupting or calling her out so she could sell more copies of her book. So in a way, Christine
Yes.
played this right.
Totally. But my question is if she went on the reunion, would she have even been allowed to say these things or show the
Mm-mm.
video? Because it doesn't totally make Netflix look good. I mean, I understand that
Mm-mm.
there's a production company and then it's just, Netflix is the streaming service that is just airing the show, but I don't feel like it bodes well for, the production company or the Netflix, which are obviously working hand in hand. So I don't even know that we would have been able to get that footage had Christine tried to share it. They probably would have taken it out or something like that. So maybe, I still would have loved to have Christine on the reunion, and I feel like we need it. But I feel like maybe if we had the reunion, we wouldn't be getting all of this either because
Yeah.
I don't know, but I feel like she wouldn't have been able to have as candid of conversation as she is now and giving us the details that she is. So maybe it was a good thing.
Yeah, they would have cut it out completely. That would never have aired on Netflix.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the thing about this interview she just did with Call Her Daddy is that like all of these things that she said are like it kind of shows that the show is not super authentic and that it's kind of scripted and that, there is this, executive producer Adam DeVillo who also worked on The Hills and he kind of, helps or instigates situations and he has these producers who instigate situations and lock the girls in rooms before they come out to the scene and then they tell the girls that Christine's talking bad about them when she's not. Now, Christine also did throw under the bus. I mean, rightfully so, because Adam does not seem like the best guy. Apparently, he told Christine to kill herself and a few other things, and that there was some misconduct on set. And she's not even worried about getting sued because the production company cannot afford her lawyers. This was a lot to digest. What did you make of all of this?
I honestly thought that this was the most shocking part of the entire interview, which was like an hour long. Um,
Hmm.
because it just baffles me how somebody is so, to his caliber is able to continue creating shows, continue to be,
Hmm.
I don't know if he's necessarily hired by Netflix, but, Netflix is paying him to a degree from the money that they make from the show and putting it on their streaming service,
Hmm.
etc. And, I kind of feel like, haven't we started moving away from allowing men who abuse their power to,
Hmm.
continue to hold such high stakes but I think that maybe it just really hasn't been talked about, and I'm sure it's difficult, as we've heard from so many women during the Me Too movement. It's so hard for them to come out and speak out about men in positions of power that can really manipulate or hinder their career if they do speak out about it. So I do find that it was very courageous of Christine to, whatever the misconduct was, because she was pretty vague about exactly what it was. But I mean, she described him with some very serious words, like terrifying, like mentally
Hmm.
traumatizing, that he was harassing them, a lot of things that do not sound good whatsoever. And in my heart of hearts, I just do not believe that somebody would go on an interview, say those things, if it was not accurate, because the repercussions can be
Hmm.
astronomical. And
Oh, for
even,
sure.
she mentioned Heidi. Yeah, she mentioned Heidi, that Heidi had even made a claim of misconduct, and then Heidi reposted the interview on her Instagram story and said, "Go watch this interview. I relate so much." So my thought is, why, if that also wasn't accurate, then those people wouldn't be sharing and pushing you to listen to the interview if they didn't have similar experiences.
I mean, and it wouldn't be such an issue where she would want to bring it up if it didn't happen to maybe multiple people or it's been happening for over a decade,
Yes.
as you just mentioned, Heidi. So I don't know what the future
Hmm.
is going to be for Adam and how this will affect his career or if he will be able to, or if he wants to speak about it. But I mean, this has obviously crossed a line where it's like not even about the reality show. Like there's other issues going on set behind the scenes.
Correct.
So I think it's brave for Christine to kind of speak up for herself. And that's kind of what she taught us in this interview or she wants to teach people in the book is
Yes.
about how to set your boundaries and how to stand up for yourself and how to not let people take advantage of you and how to become a boss bitch. And that's kind of why Christine is so inspiring, even though she's such a
Hmm.
villain and she could be lying and, manipulating the girls behind the scenes and on the show. And maybe she is like another producer. And I think that happens a lot with reality TV villains is that they almost become the producer of the show as well. So, I mean, there's just so
Hmm.
much with Christine, and that's kind of why she's the highest paid on the show. She also did imply that Chrishell and Jason's relationship was fake and for the storyline. And she also shares that Emma made up the $5,000 storyline because Christine already left the Oppenheim group before filming started, and viewers needed to see her get fired because she already left. So it made sense for the storyline. And the reason she left is because we know she started her own brokerage. And now they're going to have to figure out how to keep her in the show for seasons 6 and 7. And even after this interview, I mean, how do we continue with Christine from here?
I mean, I think she has explained how we continue from here. It becomes less about the Oppenheim group, and now it becomes about these two brokerages. It's about real estate, but now it's the two brokerages competing. I mean, they have to keep Christine in some capacity. And I think, what was I listening to? Or I read something where, they were saying how we would blend the two is Christine and then the other agents from the Oppenheim group are both going to be at the same listings. And I feel like that's how the dynamic will work. And Zach, I wanted to ask you, because I started to maybe put something together, but I could totally be off. But you know how she tweeted, enjoy selling Sunset with the 5,000 fake storylines.
Mhm.
Do you think the 5,000, specifically choosing that number, was a precursor to the $5,000 bribery?
Yes, it was. It took me a minute too when I first read that tweet, but I figured it out like a couple weeks ago. So I'm glad that you're coming around, but 100%
for
that is
you.
exactly what she meant. No, it took me a second too
I just
originally.
putting
That
it
is
together.
that's exactly what she meant. And I believe her. I do think that was a fake storyline. And it's actually making me look the other way at Emma. Like, I know Emma has to do her job, but then Emma in all her interviews is like bashing Christine and like kind of going along with this narrative when like that's not even true. And the reason Christine never showed up to that final scene with Mary and Jason is because she didn't even want to entertain this fake storyline. And that possibly could be one of the reasons she didn't show up to the reunion as well. So it's like, now that we know all of this is fake, which is like frustrating because it's like, oh, I just want to pretend it's real. Like, I want to know, like, how do you think her role is going to be like in the future? Because like, there's no way they're gonna. Christine isn't the producer on the show. Like, yes, she came up with the battle of the brokerages, but it's not like she could just like decide that.
Okay, I want to answer that in 1 second because I just wanted to comment on the Emma thing and also the meeting. So Christine had said in a previous interview that she actually didn't even know that meeting was happening. Nobody ever told her. So she found out because her agent was watching the show and was like, they're making it seem like, because Christine had said she doesn't watch the show, or not her agent, but whoever it is, has her watch it for her and basically relayed back to her that this happened. And she was like, I never even knew that I was supposed to be meeting there. So I thought that was really interesting when I read about that. And then my other thing is, like, maybe Emma's being played by the producers here and she doesn't know. What if, and this is just, I'm just playing a big hypothetical here, but what if, the client that she was supposed to work with, works for the production company and called up and made this fake storyline that she gave the 5,000. So now they're both being duped. So it's kind of like, well, what the heck do we believe all around, because is Emma being duped about this 5,000 storyline? So now Jason is, but they're choosing to believe the producers. It's kind of like, well, what the heck is real?
That's so confusing. And like, this is just a mind warp. And now I don't even know if like, if anything is real. Like, are we even like on our panel right now? Like, it's just really mind F's you so hard. I mean, overall, I think this was an amazing interview, a lot of insight. I mean, what do you think your biggest takeaway is?
Oh gosh. I think the biggest takeaway, the whole Adam DeVello situation of it all was really like kind of one of the biggest like whoa moments for me. I think the other thing is because it's like, subconsciously, in the back of your mind that this isn't as real as we think it is, or you want to believe it is, right? I feel like we were all totally shocked at the end of the hills when they pulled back the set, or, that like iconic moment at the very end of it when you were like, holy cow, none of anything I watched wasn't real. And, I want to believe that what I'm watching is what's actually happening. So now I'm like fighting this internal battle because I'm like, well, here is obvious proof. And it's like, this, but it's like, you just don't want to believe it. So that's where I'm at. I'm like, what the heck where do I go from here?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a great show, and I can't wait for the next few seasons. We know season 6 and 7 were renewed. Not sure when they start filming. I mean, they film in the summers usually, so hopefully we'll get some, tea on the next season fairly soon. And we want to hear from you guys. We want to know what your biggest takeaways were from the Christine interview on Call Her Daddy with Alex Cooper. Let us know what you think of all the revelations in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell before you head out of here. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Reality, joined by the lovely Blakely Mchugh. Our social media handles are on the screen right now, so be sure to give us a follow, come say hello, and we will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.